Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to talk about Mohnish Pabrai and investing in Indian equities. So for those of you who follow Mohnish Pabrai, you probably know that a portion of his portfolio is invested in Indian companies. And of course, right now he has two kind of public equity holdings in the US. But his Indian holdings are actually a little bit more in terms of assets under management than his US holdings. If you look here, basically his top five positions in India have a current value of around $204 million. Okay, that's US dollars. If you look at his US holdings, this is reported price at the end of June of 2020. But if I update these prices based on today, which is September 3rd, 2020, he's got about $152 million in US companies. So a little bit more over in India. And personally, I've always wondered, how do I invest in Indian public companies as a US citizen? And so I posed that question in a recent comment, and this guy PT, he kind of laid out the process of applying for investing in India. So I just wanted to introduce you guys to this process here. So National Securities Depository Limited, Indian Central Securities Depository. So that's this page here, okay? And it's the Common Application Form, the CAF process of applying. And this FPI stands for Foreign Portfolio Investors. So anyone who lives outside of India would be a foreign portfolio investor. And then, here's the link to actually apply. So you would click Foreign Portfolio Investor Applicant. You'd put your address information in there. You create a login, and you are off to the races. Now, another thing he mentions in here, so you have to choose a designated depository participant. And PT mentioned Kotak Mahindra Bank. Now, for those of you who have followed Pabrai for any amount of time, you might recognize that name. That was one of the investments he made in the mid 1990s. He had like 4 investments in India when he was starting out. He had $1 million to invest, and one of those 4 Indian companies was Kotak Mahindra Bank, and I think he did quite well with that investment. So that's great. We have we know where to apply. We have the website for that and the form, and we've even been recommended a bank to work with as the designated depository participant. So this is fantastic. I'm planning on going through this process. I would love to be able to clone Mohnish, not just in the US, but in India as well. And some of you may have heard about the talk of raising the limits on who has to submit 13F filings. Okay, so right now, if you're managing money in the US, you're managing over $100 million, you're required to file a 13F every quarter, which means every 3 months you have to disclose what your holdings are, which means, smaller investors like me, probably like you, we get to see what these great investors have bought and sold in the last quarter, which really helps us out because, in the world of investing, if we can bull with bumpers, if we can only look at the stock universe of companies that great investors have bought recently, that is going to massively improve our chances of hitting home runs, of picking stocks that are long-term compounders, picking stocks that are going to double in 2 or 3 years. it's really going to help our batting average if we can clone great investors. And so there's a possibility that we're going to lose that opportunity in the U.S. If this goes through. I think there's a proposal to raise the minimum from 100 million to like 3.5 billion. So most of the investors that I follow through 13F filings, I won't be able to see what they've bought and sold recently anymore. So it could be a timely, point in time to figure out how to invest outside of the U.S. and particularly India. In the case of Mohnish Pabrai, I know Guy Spear is also doing some investing in India, and if you do make it through this process, let me know if any of you have. First of all, leave a comment if any of you are investing in Indian equities and live outside of India. I know there's a lot of followers of this channel who live in India, but if you live outside of India, let us know if you've figured out how to do this and you've gone through this process or another process. But obviously the companies to dig in initially, it seems obvious to look at these first. These 5 here: Suntech Realty, Rain Industries, Kaveri Seed Company, Edelweiss Financial, and Kolte Patil Developers. One more that PT mentioned, that I've also heard mentioned, is Care Ratings, a credit rating agency in India. I think it's the second largest credit rating agency behind CRISIL. Some of you may remember CRISIL as a company that Guy Spear invested in the early 2000s. I think it was like 2002 or 2003. He got like a 4x over a couple of years and then sold it. And I've mentioned before, if he had simply held on to that position, it would be worth twice as much as his entire portfolio right now. CRISIL has been an incredible long-term compounder. And Care Ratings, might have some of those similar characteristics to be a long-term compounder. So definitely take a look at that one in addition to these 5. Obviously, if you live in India now, you don't have to wait. Just dive into those 6 companies straight away if you don't own them yet. That's not to say they're all great investments at current prices. But in the past they've been bought by great investors, so it's definitely worth seeing where they're at today. So I'm excited to dig into this, guys. I've always wanted to expand my my range of investment options beyond the U.S. It's a tricky time to find value in the U.S. You look at markets like China and India, like there's just so many more 100-bagger opportunities in those markets, just because of how they're poised to grow. So I'm excited to check this out. Again, let me know if you guys have gone through this process. Curious to hear any tips from you, how it's going so far. And just a big shout out to PT for sharing this resource. Again, it's very exciting to see how it's reached a tipping point with this channel where we're really bouncing resources off each other, and very exciting times. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, how to apply to invest in India as a foreign investor. And I'll leave these links in the description in case you want to take a look for yourself. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.